And welcome back to New Londinium, or the series New Londinium, or quite frankly, even this location isn't New Londinium, but going to be on the outskirts of New Londinium. But regardless of semantics, welcome back. I'm glad you joined us. Now, in our last episode, as shown here, we finally finished digging out the basement and we put a floor in. So, the digging part of this build is done. And now it's time to build the build. So that's what we're after here. Now, before I get started with that, I'm going to need to collect some raw materials. And before I do that, I'm going to just make a pass to the garden. And do some weeding, do some harvesting. For one thing, we need more seeds and stuff to wholly flesh out the garden and make it more efficient. For another, the excess produce we want to go ahead and throw in the composter to build up some bone meal, because we're going to need that for the last phase of the building. And that's what we're going to do. Oh, and then after the gardening, we need to harvest these dark oak trees. And this is not right because there's only two. I had temporarily put the flax in with the oats instead of making its own space. So we really do need the flax to have its own space. In this mod pack, we get flax from supplementaries, and if you process flax, you get string, so I don't have to worry about a spider farm. So we definitely want we definitely want to make sure that we have flax growing, and plenty of it. So we'll set this up. Anyhow, like I was saying, after the garden, we're going to cut down all these dark oak trees and replant them, because this building phase is going to use a mess of wood. I mean, a mess of it. So we need to get that going, harvest what's there now, and get the next crop ready, because I'm not quite sure we have enough for what I want to do today. And what is it that I want to do today? Well, what I'm kind of hoping to finish, ultimately I'm hoping we finish the whole basement. That might be a stretch. So I'm hoping that we finish the first level of the basement, right? The bottom level. And, and then if we have time, we'll go ahead and move our operations down there, so that I'm no longer camping on the surface, but essentially camping in the basement, which is an improvement. Especially since it seems to rain a lot, so that would be good. And of course, one of the plans we have in the basement, the whole point of this area, the home site, Griffin Manor, is it's going to be our base of operations while we build the bigger project. And as such, the basement's going to be full of storage. Lots and lots of storage drawers. And I'm still debating as to whether or not I will want to set up a storage network, which makes dropping stuff off a breeze. And it can make picking stuff out of the... let's get this while we're here. It can make getting stuff out of storage a breeze as well, especially with something like the Create mod. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. No point on furnishing the house if the house is still not built. So, okay, corn. Yes, please. This stuff grows like weeds, and I really think that it is not in tune with the serene season. So I will probably need to go in and set the proper tags up. And the reason I say that is this is still early spring as far as the weather goes, and yet my corn grows like weeds, and corn's not an early spring crop. You know, if you've ever waited to see fresh corn in the store, I'm pretty sure you didn't see it in, you know, March, April, May, unless you live someplace very different than I do. You know, corn's more of a, well, at best, at earliest, maybe June, July. But I mean, where I live, it's a July, August, September type of thing. Because, you know, corn grows tall, and it takes pretty much the summer heat to do that. So take out the excess. So what I'm doing here is I'm checking if something has more than 64, then we're going to go ahead and compost the excess. Eventually, I will have different rules, because we will have the storage to store whatever I can and want to pick up, but we're not there yet. And usually when I do get to that point, what I'll do is I'll do a harvesting, and I'll put half in compost and half in storage. And that seems to work pretty well. Of course, storage is just getting tight, so figuring out where to put stuff in general is kind of a pain, but we're getting there. Let's finish this gardening. Pick up the taters. You know, I had a granduncle named Tater. So, if I'm old, imagine how old he was. And his nickname Tater came from the fact that as a kid, and even well through his early adulthood, he was kind of a fanatic for potatoes. Baked potatoes, French fries, hash browns, you name it, he was all over it. And so they just gave him the nickname Tater. You know, short for potater. It's Montana, so, you know, that's just how it works. Okay. Our grapes are growing gangbusters, or at least our red grapes. And now we'll should be able to flesh out, we should be able to flesh out our white grapes. Yeah. Now it's I adopted, the grapes come from the Let's Do winery, and of course they had added it because it's all about wine. I haven't really done anything along those lines yet. So, you know, I got these grapes. I got a ton of these grapes, and I haven't explored how to make those in the wine. But with these grapes also, I got ideas for things like jellies, jams, cakes, stuff like that, juices. And I'm pretty sure when I made my pass through the mods, they don't offer those types of things as part of the mod. So, you know, one of the things I have on my long list of things to do is to add some items, some recipes and foods and stuff that use some of these other recipes, right? Of course, that can be a pain all in itself, but that one's taking forever. Okay, so let's go lumberjacking. And oh, I already got those. I don't need those. Okay, so the reason I need shears to go lumberjacking is these are dark oak trees, and they're grown close enough together that the leaves blend, so there is no guarantee that I will get enough leaves, enough saplings out of these to replace the trees that I harvest. So I have a recipe where I can make my own saplings, but it requires leaf blocks. So I'll go ahead and grab those leaf blocks. And now I should have more than enough saplings to replace these trees. Because, you know, even though we're still very much in a manual phase, this is now we're starting to harvest and grow resources on an industrial scale. Right? This isn't a tree. This is a grove of trees. And I'll probably come out of this with 200 or 300 blocks of wood. And that sounds like an insane amount of wood. But trust me, by the end of the episode, most, if not all of them, will be gone in the building. So I'm going to make my saplings, but I need a bunch of sticks. A lot more than 41, but let's see. So I'm taking whatever wood I have on me at the moment and making them into sticks. And adding those to the saplings. There we go. That should be enough for a while. Now, when I first started playing Minecraft, like most other people, my worlds almost always started in a regular forest. So oak and birch were the first woods I had access to, and I never did care much for birch. It was too washed out. But oak was pretty good, and so I was oak guy, right? Oak, everything was oak. And then, you discover spruce, and I kind of liked that. I liked the darker color. But dark oak was a lot harder to find, especially in those days. And when you did find them, it was really hard to keep a dark oak farm going, right? I mean, usually you harvest a bunch, you get a bunch of saplings, and then you start planting saplings, cutting down trees, and collecting saplings. But the mechanics behind that would be that you would slowly have fewer and fewer saplings, not quite enough to restore the oak trees you cut down, and at some point you'd have to go find another dark oak forest. And so while I generally preferred the dark oak wood, I just couldn't get enough of it on a reliable basis. So spruce was my wood of choice for most of my projects. And of course that was even easier because you can take 4 spruce saplings, put them together and make a giant spruce tree, and that's a bunch of wood. And I still like that. I still do that. But then I got into modded Minecraft, and modded Minecraft says, hey, whatever problem you think you have ever experienced or thought about, somebody out there went the step further and created a mod for it. Check it out. And sure enough, there were solutions around getting enough saplings, and I liked it. But usually those, like the solutions I found, they were all like with the vanilla trees, and they didn't work with modded trees. And it's like, well, I got the same problem with them. So then you went the next step in my little Minecraft maturation process, and I said, well, I'll just make my own recipes in a data pack, and that's what I did, and there you go. So I, for the most part, I don't think there's any trees we'll encounter in any of my worlds that I can't manually make saplings for, and that's good because some of these woods, like hellbark, right? Hellbark comes from a stunted, nasty little tree you find in the nether, and if you thought it was hard to grow dark oak in the vanilla fashion, hellbark is by design really, really hard to grow, but then it gives you a wood that is not quite black, but like a dark charcoal color, and it's fabulous, especially for a steampunk world. So yes, please, let's make the same mechanic for saplings, but you got to get that first hellbark sapling, right? After that, we're golden. And so for now, it's dark oak everywhere. And then if and when we get to the nether and we can find a hellbark tree, then that will, I hope, change the nature of the builds, and I'll be pretty happy. But that's probably a bunch of stuff you didn't necessarily want to know. But if you're watching this, you are at least somewhat interested in modded Minecraft, and in talking to some of you out there on the channel page. A surprising number of you are out there making your own mod packs, and some of you reached out with advice and guidance from your own experience, and it was extremely useful. Very, very good advice, and I thank you all. It just kind of goes to show that in a true online community, you have, you really have access to a wide range of people and levels of experience and perspectives and points of view, and there's a lot of people out there who have thought about the same things you have and faced the same problems you have, and in many cases come up with solutions to those problems. And right, it's a great way to connect with people and solve your own issues without having to reinvent the wheel every time. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why YouTube, not just Minecraft videos, but YouTube in general, is so popular, right? Those guys, like the guy who says, hey, you don't know how to tie a tie? Well, here's how you tie a tie, right? You don't know how to fix a sink, or change batteries, or whatever, right? It's just somebody out there will show you how to do it, and that's cool. I like that. Even more so because like that tie the tie guy, or actually there's several of them now, but when I was a kid, the assumption was that and it was a stale assumption then, but the assumption was that you grew up in a house with both your parents, and that even as a kid, that assumption was changing. I mean, it changed in my case, right? My parents divorced when I was 10, so all these traditions about, well, you got a question about this, go ask your dad. You got a question about that, go ask your mom. Well, for a lot of people, they weren't available, right? And we just kind of mucked along. But now they might still not be available, but there's online equivalents or proxies that you can basically tap into and learn. Of course, if you have your parents, then I strongly recommend that you leverage those, because unless you have an unusual situation, you probably love them, and they're not going to be there forever. And so that interaction, grab those interactions while you can. And more to the point too, even especially if you're a teenager or older, you reaching out to your parents, trust me, they dig it. They dig it, right? Because as you start to live your life more and more, you're always going to be a kid in their eyes. But, when you start living your own life without them, it's the natural thing. It's the natural way of things, and they want that and they encourage that, but it doesn't make it hurt any less. So, if you're going to reach out to your parents if they're there. So, we are going to be collecting a lot of bark over the course of this episode. And like I said, I'm still going to bone meal it, because we're going to need a mess of bone meal. I might have mentioned that the structure of the house will be open timber, wattle and daub, but not completely wattle and daub. I saved a lot of dirt, and I'm gonna use the chip mod to craft my dirt into these pretty cool dirt bricks, and that will be the base of. There'll be the walls for the basement, and it'll be the walls for the first floor, or if you're in a Commonwealth nation, the ground floor. And then, but for the upper floor, what we'll want is we want to go back to that wattle and daub, which is generally white in color. And I'm going to need white concrete. That looks pretty good, but white concrete requires white dye. And white dye requires bone meal. And we'll need a bunch of it. And then if there's bone meal left over, then we can use that to start generating rich soil to really kind of move things along. So now I'm using the Domnum Ornamentum mod, specifically the architect table, and we're going to use the or create these framed blocks, right? So you've got you got this, and thank God in the newer versions they actually labeled these input boxes, so you can see that I've created I've used dark oak planks as a frame, and these dirt bricks as the filling to come up with these attractive framed boxes, right? And though nobody can see them because of where they're at, I use this to kind of just keep track of where I am in the vertical lineup, and you'll find that that's what I do in my building, right? Like there's a lot of people who build, and it's like if it's out of sight, it doesn't matter, right? I'm not like that. It just bugs me. It's I kind of feel like if you go that route, what you kind of get, it's kind of like going to Universal Studios, right? It's like a movie set, which is you look and you say, oh, that's a nice kitchen, that's a nice house, and then you go in the next room and there's no room, right? It's like the studio and stuff. It's all fake, and I don't like that. So if I'm going to build something, I'm going to build the whole thing, right? Build it like it's really there, because, as I've said before, I'm building a living, thriving world, and so in my mind, at least, the world's really there, right? That's why I'm going to build it that way. Okay, so we're going to need a bunch more of these. And whee! Yeah. For a minute, I lost where I left off. And since we're not above the level of the floor, it was kind of hard to see. Anyway, so I'm really thrilled to finally be in the building phase. You know, and I mean, not just putting a floor, which was better than where we had been, but actually, you know, walls, structure, architecture. And of course, with the ambience mods I have, once we actually kind of build some walls, and then more importantly a ceiling, we start getting that the ambience of, you know, the space, right? The materials we're walking on, which I already get now, but we're out in the open. But when you have like the reverb and such, because you're indoors and sound travels differently, it really kicks off the immersion factor. Now, what I'm doing here, I mean, we got that set the wall at the floor level. Now we're going to start above the floor, and this is where the central staircase will be. This is how we're going to go up and down in this thing. And so that's that block right there. When I say block, I mean space between porches. Not just a single block. That's a Minecraft term, but and these framed blocks are tricky. Right now, they're not tricky. You can see I'm just going gangbusters throwing these things down. But when the blocks I'm going to use in a few minutes, they actually have a definite up and a down, but you can wind up setting the block sideways. So I have to be very careful about how I place the block, or else it will, oops, ran out, or else it will not place properly. So when we get to that, you'll see it's a little more tedious, but it's worth it, I think. There's some tricks to kind of make that easier, but then, you know, if you have a material on the inside, like these dirt bricks, the patterns kind of get munged a bit, kind of out of whack. And so you can then look at the wall and see where you use the trick and where you didn't use the trick, and it just looks kind of goofy. So I think I might as well fill these in. Okay, look at that. The beginnings of a wall. I mean, we had the first layer, but it just brought us flush with the floor. So it's the beginnings of a wall, but it looks like the floor. This is the beginnings of a wall that looks like a wall, right? So look at that. Still wouldn't classify it as shelter just yet, but we're getting there. Okay. Okay. I was just thinking if I was gonna about the stairs, right? So as I said when I lay down the floor, yeah, and I can't. So what I'm trying to do here is when you lay down the floor, you know, you don't normally have a stone floor on top of a wood frame or structure, right? You have a stone floor on top of dirt because stone's really heavy and you need to support it. So what I was hoping was that I could make the same flat bricks that we built the floor out of, but throw them into the architect table here and craft stair pieces. And then I could, for this first floor at the very bottom of the basement, I would build the stairs out of these stone bricks, but it doesn't work. I mean, I can make it work with by, you know, the right tags and stuff, but I'm not going to bother. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to just do dark oak wood plank stairs all the way up. So we're going to need a lot more planks now, not just for the stairs won't take much, but what we're doing here is we're building these pieces. We need to clear some space here. And change these back. I love that about the chip mod. It's not a one-way process. And let's get this out of here. It's regular dirt now, and regular dirt goes back in the regular dirt stack. Okay, now I got enough space for more of these things. These particular pieces I'm after. And let's go to town. So you can see here these framed pieces. The framing is complete on the bottom and up the sides, but not on the top. And the reason is because then we're going to use a similar piece, but the opposite, where the framing is complete on the top but not the bottom, and then to link up. And instead of just a one block design, we actually have a 2-block design that kind of works together. And you'll see what I'm talking about in just a second, I think. Like this. See? So now you have to be careful. If I'm too far to the side, it's going to lay the block sideways, and that's actually, well, actually, it's obviously going to look a little goofy. But there we go. I'm kind of jury's still out on these arrows. This is a new update for the additional placements mod. And, ooh, sun's out. And not sure I like it so much, but it's okay. I think it's just confusing me more than anything at the moment. But maybe once I get used to it, I won't mind so much. Unfortunately, because I have to be careful about how I place the block, I can't just, you know, run through this like I did with the level below, or the layer below. Gotta place each block individually. handcrafted with love by Swiss artisans. This is an artisanal basement. Made of dirt. You know, these were modified by the chip mod, so these are blocks of dirt. They sound like blocks of dirt. As far as the game's concerned, they're blocks of dirt. They're easy to pick up with a shovel. But, you know, I would say that when you look at them, except for the coloring, they don't look like blocks of dirt. I think they look really good. And I need just 3 more, and that'll finish this layer. So 1 and 1. So that gives me 4. And while I'm here, let's go ahead and get the next layer ready. Now we go for the one with the upper version. So you can see how this is starting to come together. Bing! So now it's time for the next level. So let's swap to the other one. And we'll see how this goes. Well, I know how it goes. You'll see how this goes. Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that this is the right design I want. So, I mean, you can see that the frame blocks come in all sorts of different flavors. So you can do all sorts of different designs. And this one is a little bit different than what I normally prefer to do. So now I'm just, I'm questioning my design change. But I think we're good for now. I mean, if worst case scenario, if I really... I thought I'd make it. I obviously didn't. So anyway, if I really change my mind, you know, this is the basement, and most of the walls will be actually hidden behind rows of storage drawers anyway. So I can change it on a once we reach the ground level. And I might. We'll see. I mean, that's the thing about trying something new. Sometimes it works out, and you find something cool or better. Sometimes it doesn't. But you know, you took a chance, and you learned something. Sometimes learning something isn't good is almost as useful as learning something is good. Yeah. All right. I just can't tell you how jazzed I am to actually be building. This feels good. And in a way, you know, like I was commenting on the Greifenhorst series, right? I mean, that series, because the project isn't as massive, as complex, or as pre-planned as this one, just within an episode or two, boom, I'm pretty much in building mode and gameplay, and you know, everything's going fine. Well, that was the first time that's really happened in months for me. So I've really been jonesing to do some building, to actually play the game, right? As I've said that multiple times. Ouch, that's what I get for talking. But now in that series, and now this series, I'm building stuff, and I'm just this is what it's all about. This is what I started the channel for. This is why I still play the game. This is the part that makes me happy. And of course, we're at that most wonderful time of the year, which is it's always been one of my favorite times of the year. But maybe about the time, I don't know, maybe when I was in my mid-20s or early 30s, I'm an adult at that point, and not living at home. So Christmas wasn't a time of lights, candles, candy canes, and toys. It was a time of lights, candles, and computer games. and so I just have some really great Christmas memories of, I didn't have to go to work, didn't have to do anything, just sit there and play games all day, completely uninterrupted. In fact, I remember one year, the general manager of the company I worked for came to me and says, "Hey, we, the week between Christmas and New Year's, the job site's closed, and we're going to be out of town. We're wondering if you want a house sit for us, right? And you got the whole house to yourself. Plus, the refrigerator will be full of Christmas leftovers, and ham and cookies and stuffing and stuff." I'm like, "Oh, yes, please." And I remember, I spent a week at their house. I basically brought my computer over and set it up in the kitchen, and I basically just spent almost 24 hours a day in the kitchen playing computer games for a week. I was paid. It was paid time off. No. Oh man, it was just fabulous. And then later, older, I got married, and so the nature of Christmas or the holiday season in general changed. And in the early years of my marriage, I didn't get to play much, but now it's for the past, 13 years, some of my fondest Christmas memories, outside of the kids' faces lighting up when they see things like Santa Claus and presents, is me just sitting wherever playing Minecraft, listening to Christmas tunes, and just doing my thing. And in fact, that's what I'm doing now. You can't hear it, right? Because I can't let it play. I can't let you hear the music I listen to while I'm doing this because, of course, it's all copyrighted material, and that would just wreak havoc on my systems. On my channel. So I listen to it and I jam. Right? It's jamming. And this time of year, it's the Christmas tunes. Now, I do the same thing when it's not Christmas, but what I'm listening to then is movie music, right? So ever since I was a kid, when I was very young, my parents got me a record player. And when I say very young, I mean like I was 4 or 5 and I got a record player. And, so you're talking like 72, 73, somewhere around there. 1972, 73, a century ago. But, and they just got me a couple little 45s. And I had a record, 45, which is a little record, for those of you who don't know. It has only a single song on either side. And on one side, it had the William Tell Overture, which I knew from many, many Bugs Bunny cartoons. And the other side was El Capitan by J.P. Souza. And these were awesome. I just loved these, right? And so that's how I established a love and appreciation for classical music, aside from pop and rock and all that jazz. And but that's kind of where it stayed, right? I mean, when I would occasionally get hand-me-down records or handoff records that were like, some more classical or whatever. But then Star Wars came out, right? I mean, at that point, movie soundtracks were starting to go more toward modern instrumentation, synthesizers, electronic stuff. And then, but George Lucas had the insight. Well, actually, I watched a documentary. So it was Steven Spielberg that pushed George Lucas to have the insight to hire John Williams, who made the soundtrack for Star Wars. And that was mind-blowing. I mean, that brought back the full orchestral score for movies in general, right? And ever since then, I have had a massively growing collection of soundtracks, movie soundtracks, right? I love movie soundtracks. And so I've got, gosh, like close to 70 or so full soundtracks. And the point of all this, to get back to Minecraft, is that, okay, I'm going to replace these with these. You'll see there's a method to my madness here. But I keep, of course, many years ago, we switched to digital, and I took all my physical CDs and I burned them into my iTunes. And so now, when I'm playing, like I am now, I'm listening to my iTunes, right? And I got playlists set up, and I have a number of playlists for gaming that are based on different types of movie soundtracks. And the one I'm listening to right now is called, well, right now I'm listening to Christmas music, but the one I normally listen to when it's not Christmas time is called Adventure Time, right? And so it's got soundtracks from like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and, stuff like that, right? It's also got some stuff that you wouldn't normally think of as like adventure music, things like Dances with Wolves and stuff. But trust me, you throw that soundtrack on and you start running around the world, and it moves you. It's pretty awesome. I have another one called Space Empires that I play when I'm playing something higher tech or space oriented or whatever, and it's of course got Star Wars and Star Trek, and that's all great. And it's a great way to play. Right now, on my old system, it of course you're running another program, and that degrades your overall system performance a little bit. And in up to now, you can see that I've had some performance issues. So, but that was a non-starter for me. I had to have the music, so I did my best to figure out a way around it. Now with the new system, I got all that stuff running in the background, and the new system's running, playing the game, and it's it doesn't even bat an eye. So I'm like, woohoo! Go to town, listen to what I want. I'm really, really happy. But then again, when I was single, that wouldn't have been a big deal because I was one of those PC do-it-yourselfer nerds where as new parts came out, I wouldn't get it the minute it was available, but I get it slightly after, so the price came down a little bit, but it was still probably too high for what you were getting. But because I got to have the latest bits, and then I swap it out, and then I have a growing number of spare parts, which was funny because you do that, and soon enough you have everything you need for your old computer, except you're still using the case on your new computer, quote unquote new computer. So then you buy another case. Now you have two computers. One is cutting edge. The other one's slightly behind cutting edge. And in my case, that went on a little longer, and then I had enough for a third computer, so I bought another case. And then you're trying to figure out what to do with these computers, right? Hey mom, you want a computer? Oh, technology. I don't want to touch that. It's evil. Okay. So, what do you do with it? And in those early days, too, that was okay because, I could take the oldest one and I could set it up, in a corner of the office and let it run all the time. And that would be my web server, right? I had a website run on a computer in my room. Those days are gone for sure. But even now, I'm not like that anymore. I mean, that whole upgrade plan got kiboshed by my wife about 13 seconds after marriage. So since then, it was a matter of buying systems. And, and then you're married, and computers aren't a high priority for her. Plus, we have kids. So, initially things like diapers and wipes and all that's a high priority. So, didn't do a lot of computer upgrading. And now, I'm no longer one of those guys who's got to have the latest bits as soon as they're affordable. So I'll go 4 to 6 years between updates. The funny thing is now we're at a point where I don't do the parts updates. I just buy a whole new box, and that's what I just did now. So the old box I had, it's now up in the living room, running as the family media server, and it's since we got rid of cable, that's what we watch TV on, right? We have our streaming service subscription, so you just fire that computer up. But one of my daughters was using it to play her games. She's into Genshin Impact and pretty much everything else that Hoyo puts out, plus anything that's even Hoyo-like. So she kind of adopted that computer as her own, but it was in the living room. Well, I just upgraded, so now I have another spare machine, but it's more capable. So she's adopted that, and I was hesitant at first because I have twin daughters, and I was thinking, oh God, the other one's going to want something. She's like, no, I'm cool with it. She has a laptop. She's not all that interested. In fact, she's afraid of grabbing something like that because then she knows that she'll have access to more computing power, and she loves games too, but she knows that it's a huge distraction for her. She's smart enough and disciplined enough to know that she needs to stay away, but not disciplined enough that if it's readily available she can stay away. So she said, yeah, I don't want that. So I got the other one who's adopted my latest outgrown system. So there you go. And we're always talking about how my wife's not approving of gaming, but she has softened her stance somewhat. The fact that I was able to start this channel was the beginning, or not quite the beginning, but toward the beginning of that softening, and now she's okay with it. I don't get nearly as much stink eye or pushback that I used to. So to the gaming gods, I send my eternal prayers of thanks. And man, it is good to be back. Because like I told you, for me, this is Zen time, right? This is how I do the mental reset. People talk about work-life balance. And yeah, there's X amount of hours in a day for work and X amount of hours of day and energy for non-work. But when you talk about work-life balance in the life part, there's got to be a balance there too, right? There's because there's stuff at work that stresses you out, but when we talk about life, we usually, in contrast to work, say, well, that's the good stuff. It is, but there's also a lot of stuff in your personal life that can be stressful or negative too. And so you need to find something to balance that out. And for me, this is it, right? Running around with my kids and stuff, but they're 10th graders now. So one of the reasons the whole channel started is we started to get into this the state where it's like, hey girl, do you want to go do something? I want to go do this. I want to listen to my music. I want to go, basically you get to that stage, your teenagers tell you to buzz off, and I understand it. Again, I understand it. It doesn't make it easier to accept, but I understand it, and I know it's natural. My wife's having a much harder time being told to buzz off, in the nicest possible way, but kids are starting to become independent. So again, another great time for this channel and this effort, and my gaming. So, compared to the old days, gaming is big business, right? It was well over a decade ago. I don't think 2 decades ago, well over a decade ago, that the computer game industry brought in more money than the movie industry, and soon it brought in more money than the movie industry and the music industry combined, right? So games are big business now. this is, okay, this is going to be the grandpa on his porch talking about the old days moment. But when I was a kid and I got into computer gaming, and we're talking about back in the days of 8-bit computers, and an 8-bit Nintendo was still a ways away. You went to go buy computer game software specifically. And first of all, it was hard to find. And computer software stores were hard to find. Like I remember for a long time, my best place to buy computer software was Sears. In fact, it was also where I bought my first computers. So yeah, we've come a long ways. But when I went to buy a computer game, in the very early days, a lot of times it was a Ziploc bag with a floppy disk and 1 or 2 photocopy pages that are the documentation. I mean, that's really old. Very quickly, that morphed into something more professional, right? Where you would get software in some type of package. And Electronic Arts kind of had set a standard where they had this flat package. It was a little bit bigger than the size of a disc. And, inside it would either have a book or have a book built into it. So almost like a little mini record album, right? But they had a floppy disk in there. And then we went from there. But, games were hard to find. And of course you had to have the physical media. In fact, in those early days, you had to have the physical media to run the game because you didn't have a hard disk. A lot of us didn't have floppy disks. So, but you had to have the medium in the drive to play the game, which meant if your disk got damaged, you're out of luck. So that led to everybody wanting to have the ability to make reliable copies of their discs. But then if people have the ability to make reliable, runnable copies of their disc, that is a disc that's shareable. And then we start getting into the whole pirating. But pirating back then wasn't, a bunch of, fly-by-night guys in some third world nation, cranking out copycat duplicates of the real deal. This was, your friends and family bringing over their software library in a disc carrier probably, and then you sitting there all afternoon swapping discs, right? It was a very different world. But where I was originally planning to head with all that is that after the Air Force, after I left active duty, I got my old job at a game store back, and it was a game store, right? So they sold chess sets and role-playing games and all that jazz. But I kind of, that wasn't working out well for a number of reasons that maybe I'll talk about someday. But so I went looking for another job, and I found one at a software store. There was a franchise called Software Etc. It was a branch of the B. Dalton Bookseller company, and so we sold software, and selling software in a retail space meant that you sold we sold the odd copy of WordPerfect or Word, very, very rarely, because they were $300+ and everyone would just say, well, I'll copy it from work. Oh, don't tell somebody that. But we sold a lot of games. It was primarily we were selling games. And I don't know if they still do this now, but what they used to do is that game companies had this philosophy that they wanted the people who sold their games to know about their games, to be thrilled with their games, so that they would, push their games. Because at that point, retail software sales was very much about somebody would come in and said, I'm looking for X, or I want something like Y. What do you got? And then, the salesperson would kind of move them into it. It's like selling a car. So what these software companies would do is they had these programs, right? And you had to be to enter the program, you had to go through all these steps where you filled out these forms and stuff. But basically, you would go through these onboarding process to prove that you are, in fact, a bona fide sales representative of a company that sells their software. And then once you were through that process, they had a program where you could basically buy any one of their games. You got one copy, but it was $5. Some cases $10, but $5. Now, in this day and age, you know, we got Steam, and I know a lot of people like myself will camp your Steam wish list until something is discounted to $5 or $10, or nowadays $15 or $20. But you know, back in those days, you could get brand new releases for $5. Now, what do you think I did? Yes. You know, every time a new game came out, I already had the forms photocopied, and you know, I'd fill them out, and I'd send them my little check for, you know, and usually I'm spending $15 to $20 at a time, and I'd send it in, and I'd get a package delivered to home. And, you know, they were marked, you know, not for retail sale, but it didn't matter. The inside ran just the same. And it got so crazy because in the games business, you know, originally games there were so few companies and so few releases. I could keep up with everything that came out. I could try everything. And I did. And then games started to become big business, like I told you. But it didn't happen overnight, but it did happen, and it did start to accelerate. And then I was getting games at a point faster than I could go through them. And so I would get them, and I would just kind of put them over in the corner. And when I got married, one of the reasons perhaps I got such stink eye about game playing was the fact that over in the corner of the computer room, there were 4 stacks of game packages that were the same height as my wife. Right? I said 4 stacks of games that she could look at eye level. You know, because they were just coming out faster than I could. And even at that point when I married my wife, I was no longer in the software selling business, right? By that time, I was working at Microsoft as a software test engineer, but I still had the stack of games I was working my way through. So, you know, I give her a lot of grief for giving me grief about games, but on the same token, yeah, maybe there's some validity to her negative feelings about it. But like I said, it's water under the bridge. We're past all that now. So, yeah, I keep rethinking what to do with these columns. The reason I had them at 4 and then I knocked them down to 3 is because it's been a while since I've done this. But when we start adding beams and ceiling texturing and decoration, then those beams are going to push up into it and it looks kind of funny, right? So doing it this way, we're going to add texturing and stuff onto the actual ceiling, so it won't be a full block in height, but it will be a non-zero thickness, so it won't look like these pillars are pushing up into the roof. And instead, with the extra block, it'll look like these pillars are supporting the roof, and the decorations won't bury that. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm just watch. You'll get an idea here shortly. Oh my, we're almost done. So maybe we might not see too much of that this episode. This time has flown by. Of course, that's kind of what happens, right? Is once you get past the initial segments, I got stuff to do. I've got everything I need to do it. It's just a matter of getting her done. And next thing you know, the episode's over, and I didn't realize it. You know. And a call out to those of you who are parents or soon to be parents. That's kind of like how life is, right? You have kids, you blink, and they're in high school. Blink again, they have kids of their own. And, you're shopping for a condo in Florida. So, for the record, we will never shop floor condo in Florida. I mean, my wife likes the warm weather, but I think we are definitely rooted in the Pacific Northwest. We like seasons. We don't like really hot. We really don't like humid, but we kind of get that here a little bit. But we like the seasons. We like the pine trees, the smell, the mountains, the water, the vibe. So let's finish this. So what I'm going to do here is some of these stripped logs are going to be the support beams that we're going to put holding up our ceiling or floor, depending on your point of view. Right now it's a floor. I'll drop down a level, then it'll be a ceiling, but you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. But first, let's kind of flesh out this floor. I would really, really like to get this whole level done. I don't think I can do. So, it must be time to end the episode. It's raining right on schedule. Anyway, I would really, really like to get this done, but this will be an hour and a half, hour 45-minute episode. Yeah, I don't want to do that to you. I don't want to do that to me. So we'll just finish this little section, do some stuff on the ceiling down there to kind of show you what's up. And then we will call it good. But I'm still pretty excited about the progress we did make today. I still can't believe the episode's over. Just seems I just got started. Okay. Let's use up some of these blocks. Yeah. Anyway. Nice. Okay. So let's go downstairs here. And to quote Fire Marshal Bill, oh, look, we got that reverb, right? We are indoors in a place with hard surfaces. You can hear it. Let's set up these beams, show you what I'm talking about, right? These nice cross beams are going to hold the floor up or the ceiling up, depending. It's a ceiling now. See, I'm thinking that's looking pretty good. Sometimes I might leave the bark on to give it a more rustic look. In this case, I stripped them. But, and then of course, what you have is the roof is now broken up in little patches of 3x3, right? And what we will do is, we're not just going to leave that. We are going to decorate that with panels and slabs. I don't know which ones yet, and I don't know how fancy I'm going to make them, but it will give it a really cool medieval two-door carved wooden ceiling type flavor. And yeah, I think it'll look great. So let's throw some torches on this level so that I don't have bad guys spawning in the middle of the homestead. And where I'm placing these torches now, these will also be reference points for me in measurements. That's why I'm being so careful about where I put them. Because, I'm going to have to put pillars and stuff down here and measure it all out. So, there you go. Very, very nice. Then hopefully we can get the rain to stop so that we can take a look at my handiwork for this episode. It's one of my favorite parts of this effort. I haven't built a clock yet, so I have no idea what time it is. So maybe it feels like it's getting dark, so maybe it's getting dark enough that I can go to bed. Bring the end of the storm early. Well, it's not a storm. I guess it isn't dark enough. So that's what I get for talking while laying down torches. Overall, looking good. Yeah, we don't have time to move stuff down here today, but we have a space. We have an indoor space to live in. Still a little bit of a troglodyte, but that's okay. Now it is a storm. So I can end this puppy early. Well, the rain, the weather. And ta-da! So, thank you for joining me on this episode, and thank you for sitting with me as I work on all this. You can see our progress, substantial, not quite as substantial as I wanted, but I'm feeling jazzed, I'm rocking it. So, until next time, I hope this finds you and yours in good health, good spirits, and perhaps a touch of good fortune. Cheers.